Um, Thanks for doing this with me, bro. I know it's chaotic in the time of conference, but it's been a great week. I don't know about you.
Yeah,
How have you been enjoying your conference?
man, God has been moving like with me, like every day. Like it's always been something that He's been revealing to me. It's like breadcrumbs, and I keep getting closer and closer to what He's trying to reveal to me. It's kind of powerful, man. So
It's been a timely week, but I know that you're from the Missouri congregation. But the thing is, I don't think I've ever even heard like a small snippet of your testimony. So I know absolutely nothing
yeah,
about your background. Where are you from originally? Are you from Missouri?
no. So I'm born and raised in Dover, Delaware, actually.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
What was it like growing up there, like compared to like Missouri or Utah?
So Delaware is kind of like slow. Everyone knows each other. It's kind of, at least that's how it was for Dover. And it's more of a great place to raise a family as opposed to like pursue a career or further education, or even go to like a business route or anything. It's more of like a very family-based town, build you up so you can be sent out to wherever.
So what was your family dynamic growing up like?
So man, growing up, a lot of the time, so in the beginning, like the first 6 years of my life, my dad, he enlisted into the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
He got deployed for 2001. So a lot of the time it was just my mom, my grandparents, my aunt, and my babysitter till I was a certain age. And then when my dad came back home, the dynamic was like, hey, mom, whatever mom says, that's the law. Dad was always a chill guy you could talk to, but he didn't really run the show, so to speak. My mom was kind of like wearing the pants. My grandfather, he died like while I was younger. So I've always had a strong women base like background. And that's just how I was raised.
Would you say that as you got older, did that ever affect you negatively?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah, because I've just heard stories of men, when they're raised in a super strong, feminine, environment, that they grow up not learning things, not learning masculinity, not learning just basic things that a man should know growing up. Can you ever recall anything like that in your life growing up?
So me now as an adult, well, before I got saved, recently, so man, I'm trying to piece my words together. I apologize. So I was married prior. I had a wife, 3 kids, but I always saw the example as the man just chilling. My dad was always just chilling, sitting back, doing whatever kind of hobbies. My mom was running the show, doing the bills, doing this, doing that, getting on my dad's head, doing X, Y, Z. And unintentionally, I kind of repeated that process. And I was unequipped as a man in college. I fornicated and we had a child and continued to grow. But I was still in that kid stage. I never really matured as a man and led and took over responsibility. It was damaging for that relationship.
Growing up, what took place in your life? You said, college and things like that. Was there anything that like transpired beforehand that you'd like to share that was...
Prior to college?
Yeah, prior to college.
Yeah, man. So I was a huge manipulator. It didn't matter, it didn't matter what I said or who I said whatever to, because I always felt like I knew how to pull the heartstrings of a woman, because my mom based me like, hey, this is what women like. And my dad was kind of like misogynistic as well. So I kind of just, man, I was a manipulator and I used it to fornicate a lot of times. Looking back, it's like, dang, I was really like this. But yeah, I mean, there's no shame, or I'm ashamed of how I used to be. Praise God that I'm saved now, but
Yeah.
man, I was terrible back then.
I know that you did a lot of sports, right?
Yeah.
Growing up and stuff like that. What kind of sports did you play?
Man, my main sport was wrestling.
Nice. What weight class?
So high school I was 119, and then 126, 126, and then I finished 132, and then in college 133, and then I finished out at 141.
Dang, the little guys, huh?
Yeah, man.
Dude, so when I wrestled, I was in the lowest weight class. Guess my weight class.
Oh, were you at like what was it? I think they had like a 97 at one point.
No, I wasn't that low. I think the lowest ours went was 115. I was like 113 pounds.
Sheesh.
Yeah, dude. I was either 2 under or 2 over, like just barely over, barely enough.
Yeah.
I sucked at like the whole, like the guys that would like starve themselves or like overeat, and I couldn't do that.
Yeah, that'd be me too.
So sports and athletics and stuff was a big part of your life. Did you ever tamper with anything else, in high school, being in that crowd or anything like that?
Yeah, so I mean, wrestling, you can't really consume like food and stuff, so you found other ways to feel better. I was addicted to video games.
What did you play?
Man, I was on PlayStation playing like Modern Warfare 3, Black Ops 2.
Any 2K?
I was not a 2K guy, unfortunately.
Oh, wow.
I was a story gamer. Destiny, some multiplayers as well, but Sly Cooper, Smite.
Nice.
Those are MMOs.
I'm all nice.
Yeah, yeah.
I used to be a little bit of a gamer, but not anymore.
Yeah.
Got delivered.
Come on. Yeah.
So video games, was that like a huge crutch in your life at that point?
Yeah. Honestly, until I got saved, really. But let's see. I was gaming until I was 13. Didn't really cut it out until I was like 26. Crazy.
It's wild how captivating stuff like that is. You hear, a lot. Obviously nowadays, people in church and stuff, they mock like, oh, video game, but it's honestly one of those things. It's like once you get into it, it's like, whoa, this is cool, this is fun, and it's so time consuming.
It's addictive, man.
And it's very addictive.
And and it helped me realize that I had like this personality where I was just easily like addicted to things. So not only was it video games, but like chewing tobacco, cigarettes, stinking, and I was smoking weed at a young age because I couldn't really cut weight, or I could cut weight, but I realized that it boosted my metabolism when I would get high and have the munchies and not eat. Ugh. It was like torture, but it was also like a quote unquote relief. So.
Yeah. So how did you get introduced to weed and stuff like that?
So I had this buddy whose dad was a cop. I'll never forget him. Anthony. I won't say last names, but Anthony. And he would just post up out at the bus stop afterwards, be like, hey, man, you want to go hang out with us? I'm like, yeah, sure. And it'd be me and this kid named Noah. So Anthony and Noah, we just ran up, and there was this abandoned house by the bus stop in Lakeshore Village where I lived. And we would be up in the attic of this abandoned house and just smoking. And then we just come out stupid high out of our minds, go back home, woohoo, like putting your arms up. Like that used to be like, I don't know, it's just the way we just killed time because we were all loners back then.
Yeah.
So
high school and everything like that. Then you eventually went to college. What did you go to college for?
So I went to college initially. It was supposed to be business and Spanish. I switched my major to business and economics. I required the last 2 years of college. So, business administration college, or in economics.
And so what was that like, college, compared to, regular high school? I've never been to college. I don't know anything about it.
Well, college is very different if you're just going as a student compared to being a student athlete. Because
is it like how they, portrayed in like movies and stuff like that?
Well, how do they portray it in movies?
Like just, I don't know, everybody's partying and dorms and trashed and. So
I went to a school that was kind of like a Christian college. It's called Graceland University. And the way that the school operated, it was like all of our halls, it was like agape, like different characteristics of God's love, but in Greek words. So there was like Sariah, agape. There was I'm trying to remember these names, but I really cannot remember. It's honestly kind of sad. I'm like, what the heck? But yeah, but there was still partying though and drinking, because these are like, this town, there's only like 2,000 people in there, and honestly the college kids made 1,200 of the population, so it was really an 800 person town. And on weekends before the season started, we would do homework, whatever, but then you'd crash out, and you just start throwing bottles down. I was a freshman. Dang, I hit the mic. I was a freshman, and there was people that were literally just handing me alcohol, like, here, bro, have this. Oh, you never had chew before? Here you go. Oh, you never, you haven't tried this before? Here you go. It was like the environment was so openly inviting for everything involved that was possibly wrong was accessible. It was so easy.
Did you have any like background of going to church at all in your childhood?
So yeah, when I was younger, my grandfather always took me to this Baptist church, and my grandmother would go, my mom sometimes, and my aunt would go sometimes, and then my grandfather passed, and then I stopped going to church with them. And then a few years later, this was like when I was like 6, 7, and a few years later, my dad's dad died, and my parents started going to church again. So I went from like the age of 10 to like 12, became at this place called Crossroads Christian Church, like an all-black church, and very flashy, but these people loved God. Like it was actually kind of cool, because I never really understood. I was only just told about God, but I never really experienced much. And so I was part of this group called D3. And it's like, D3. And we'd be like, praise him. And, it's the praise team,
Yeah.
And I remember we did a performance, and I prayed in front of the congregation. I was so terrified and scared. I just remember saying, God, I'm really scared right now, but we just pray that you bless this service. Amen. And people were like, yeah, okay, boy, yeah, that's how it goes.
How old were you when you did that?
I was like 12.
Okay.
Something like that.
And so in college, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt.
Okay.
In college, being in that environment, did you ever feel any sort of inner conviction, like, man, I don't belong, I shouldn't be doing this? Or were you just having fun? Was it fun to you?
So no, in college, I felt zero conviction about everything that I did. Like in college, man, I was I was just very cut off, because matter of fact, to piggyback off from there to college in terms of religion, my family stopped going to church just spontaneously one Sunday, because football became more important. And so we just, my dad was like, oh, the Redskins game's on, da-da-da. My mom would be like, oh yeah, the Eagles game. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And so, I was asking them to go to church. They're like, nah, I'm busy, I'm tired. Oh no, it's laundry, I gotta work, da-da-da, stuff like that. So then that transferred into like, okay, it told me mentally, okay, going to church is just kind of like it's not required. We've already done this.
It's not important.
Exactly. It's not important. It's there, and as long as you acknowledge Jesus, you're saved.
Yeah.
Or as long as you at least know the truth, and you're good.
Yeah,
Too easy.
So you kind of had like a take it or leave it mentality when it came to church and things like that.
Exactly. And, man, I was the biggest people pleaser. So by the time college came around, I wasn't even claiming to be Christian anymore. I was just kind of like atheist, just kind of just doing what I wanted. And then I was working at a country club as a work study, and I became Muslim just because I was curious.
Yeah.
But I realized that they had a lot of conflicting stuff. It's really deep to get into it. The main thing that deterred me from that was they were like, oh yeah, the Bible says that there will be no further revelation after the Bible. And then Islam was written like 400 maybe like 500, maybe 9. It's either 4 or 5 or 900 years after the Bible. Either way, that's revelation after the Bible. It's false doctrine and it's a false religion. For anybody listening out there, I'm not Muslim. I just remember that distinct fact.
Yeah. It's funny that you say that because I had a conversation with a guy that was saying similar things to that, where he had recently, tried it out due to curiosity. And he was telling me that in the Quran or something like that, that it says to read the other gospels. And so I straight up told him, just because I had the type of relationship with him, I was like, so why are you going to devote yourself to something that is literally telling you to read the Bible?
Yeah. it's and like, if you have a conviction about something and it's telling you to read another work, and the other work is like, every other work after this is invalid and is probably false doctrine. So just keep that in mind,
Yeah. So take me through the timeline of, what happened throughout the course of your life.
Yeah.
We kind of left off around like college time.
Oh, yeah. So college, yeah. So after I had made that revelation with Islam being fake and, fake for me, I know for whatever, I went through this like crisis where I didn't really know who I was or what I wanted, and I honestly became like really, really depressed. Mm-hmm. And there was this time where I remember when I was at my wit's end one time, because I was doing work study, I was cutting weight, feeling like crap, doing so many drugs I can hardly think, doing Adderall to stay awake because of the other drugs and because of me not eating, trying to keep up with finals and still having to go to wrestling practice. And I was just tired. And there was one night where my roommate had left for a party and I was the only one in the room, and I was just breathing, and like, it was so weird. Like, nowadays I'm looking at it, I'm looking back, and it was like a demonic presence. But I didn't realize that back then. I was just breathing, and breathing was the hardest thing that you could do. It was almost like trying to hit that last repetition at the gym, and your body's like, come on, do it. And you're like, I was straining to breathe. I didn't know what was happening. And somehow I was getting past these last reps, strength worth of breaths over and over again. I was like, I am tired. I can't do it anymore. And I had gotten a belt, and I had made a decision, like, I'm done with this. Like, I want to end it. And so I'd gotten a belt. I had pinched it between my beds because there was no place to actually take the belt. It was leather, so these two pieces of wood like smacked just enough, and it was able to keep it from rubbing or slipping. And I was like, perfect. And so there I am, suspended above, the ground for probably about a little bit over a minute. And I'm hearing like this noise, and it ends up being a buddy of mine coming in, dialing my keypad to come into my room and play a prank on me. And he throws this can of shaving cream, and he's like, I'm gonna say the clean version. He's like, holy cow, what the heck? Yo, somebody come help, da 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 da. And so he's like holding me up. He's keeping me alive. And he's like, yeah, bro, you can't leave me, bro. No, not like this. And I was, honestly, when that happened, I was so angry. I was like, bro, get your stinking hands off me, bro. I was so mad. Oh. I was about, like, I cussed him up, down, left, right, and all the way inside out. Like, I was so angry. But I saw some help, whatever, continued to live life. Started to do less drugs because I just realized they made me feel even more depressed. Mm-hmm. But I still had them in my life. That was just college alone, but fast forward, I kind of just, having the same mindset. I was still kind of, being same old misogynistic me, slipping in and out, getting what I wanted when I wanted. And eventually I met this girl, and she wanted more from me. I was like, okay, this is easy. I don't feel like working for anything. We ended up having 2 kids, getting married, And then we had a third kid. I went to the Army. We had a lot of marital issues where I wouldn't essentially care about her because I never committed, never wanted to be in a relationship. I just let things happen because I was repeating that cycle with my dad, being the passive man. She was taking charge. And then someone was like, you know what, man? God wouldn't want this for your life. You better go get your family, because we split after basic because she had fornicated with she had relations with other people while I was gone. And so I was like, yeah, I'm just going to jump back into it. Sure, I'm going to go back. This is what God would do, right? So I go back, and I'm believing in God for a little bit. At least I thought I was. And she's just like, no, this isn't working. Like right after our third child is born, I'm like, dang. So I was at my wit's end again. You know, we live in the house for a little bit. She's like, I want a divorce. So we live in the house again for a little bit. And she's like, you know what? I'm packing my bags and going to my grandparents because this is not it. Like, because I like stubbed my toe drinking alcohol, and I was mad and I cussed really loud. And she was like, excuse me? I was like, what? I said blah, blah, blah because it blah, blah, blah hurt. It stinking hurt. And so she's like, no, I'm going to my grandparents. And so she did. She packed up, not everything. She packed up what she could. And while she was doing this, my middle child was asleep upstairs in my quote-unquote room. And I was in there with her. She was like, Jordan, unlock the door. I was like, no. Like, I went upstairs with her. And I was like, no, because you're being erratic, whatever. Broke the door down, literally, because I literally just fixed the doorknob early that day. I'm still salty about that. I'll get over it. God forgive me. And she broke the door down and was like, you know what? I'm calling the cops. And then she went down, and in that town, Memphis, Missouri, where we had eventually ended up living last together, I'm like the only one of like 3 black people there. So it was just kind of weird being there by myself and being like, I'm mixed, right?
Yeah.
But the black part, quote unquote black part, whatever, I'll be perceived as that on paper. And so it was always weird being involved with law enforcement. It's like, oh no, my life's over whenever you hear something with the cops. So I was like, you know what? And she was already downstairs, like on the phone. The other kids were were put in the van. And I brought Naomi downstairs, my middle child, and I was like, here, take her, you blah, blah, blah. And I like, dude, had so much anger on my heart.
Yeah.
And she walked outside with the kids, and I distinctly remember this one little portion. I was always upset because whenever I'd cook, the cutting knives, I would always sharpen them.
Yeah.
And so I had attempted to slice my wrist, and but when I did it, I'm looking back at it, it was so demonic. I had no control. Because normally when people make that resolve, they're ready. But it was like a self-hatred that was deeper than just like cutting yourself out of like enjoyment, or not enjoyment, but out of release. It was like, no, I'm done. I'm gonna end it right now. But it was like an aggressive form. So I was like hacking and slashing at my wrist like a madman. The knife was sharp. Or was not sharp, and I was so mad. I remember throwing it across the room, and then I walked out of the house into my car because she was like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "Leave me alone," in the cleanest way possible I can put that. Got in the car, sped off, and so one of these people that believed in God, they were still believing for me, and they were like, "Jordan, come with us," because they found me along the road in my car, and the cops were looking for me. They were like, he's okay, we'll take care of him. And they like patched me up and all that stuff because I was bleeding a lot. Oh my goodness, I was bleeding a lot.
So you were still bleeding when you took off and everything, right?
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah, blood dripping from the kitchen to the front door. It was a mess. And
Wow.
at that point, I'd lived in Memphis for a little bit, like a year after, and then I was like, you know what, I'm done. I'm going to St. Louis. So I went down to St. Louis.
What year was this that you went down to St. Louis?
So it's 2022. In 2021, this was November when all this craziness happened. December. So then October of 22, I went down. I was working 3 jobs at the time. Denny's, I was working at Casey's, and I was working at this place called Bargain Warehouse in Memphis.
Yeah.
For some Mennonites who 3 jobs, and I was like, you know what? I can't even pay my bank account negative. I was like, this check won't bounce. So I put the check in. Sure enough, I was able to pay my bills, and I was like, all right, cool. But it just kept going negative, and I was like, okay, I need to get out of here.
That's tough, dude. 3 jobs at once. Did that ever like tear at your mental health or just stress and anything like that? Because I'd imagine you're already kind of dealing with a toxic situation at that time. I don't know if you can remember exactly what you were feeling in that time frame, but I don't know, just from what you've described, dealing with, suicidal thoughts and tendencies, and being in a stressful environment probably didn't help, I'd imagine.
No, so dude, there was a day where I had, a time period where I had been up for like 3 days in a row.
Oof.
And the only reason I was awake was because when I worked and went to Denny's, I would like take like 2 cups of like to-go coffee that were like the large cups. And I would take them from job to job to job. And in a Bargain Warehouse, coffee, because my boss, he just had coffee sitting there. I'd make coffee all day. Casey's, coffee. So I just drank coffee like nonstop for like 3 days.
Did that like destroy your stomach at all?
Dude, yes. So
Sorry.
I would run. I would have to run. Like I'd be in the bathroom like most of the day. Sorry for anyone. Yeah, sorry that you guys.
Well, this is gonna be a graphic episode. No, just kidding.
Yeah,
that would be played.
But yeah, man, that was rough. And I also had a dog at the time named Pack. And that was my buddy.
What kind of dog?
He was a blue, not a blue heeler, a blue cadoodle. But he was red out of his litter, so he was. It was really cool. He ran around and this dude was smart. My girls loved him, but I had to give him up because I was working so many hours. I could not take care of that man.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So 3 jobs, and this is all in Missouri, right?
Yep.
How did you first come across the Potter's House out there? Tell me that story.
Yeah, so, I didn't come across Potter's House. The Potter's House found me. They met me where I was at. I was living in sin, still smoking weed every now and then, still drinking with my unit and just people I could find anywhere. And one night I was working a double shift at Denny's, and I was also waiting to get on my smoke break because everyone else was smoking weed out in the truck. I was like, dang, I really want to hit some of that. So everyone was doing that. I was washing dishes because they were taking way too long. I remember they were taking way too long, so I had to wait on tables, and we were full in the dining room. I had to cook food because I thought they were finished, and I also had to wash dishes and ring people out. So I was one person running around this big behind Denny's, just like a madman. And so Pastor Fino Baca and Pastor Dakim Murphy, they walk in.
Shout out those 2.
Yeah, shout out. But no, they were seated. It was just them 2, and they had ordered, and they were like, "You the only one here, man?" I was like, "You would think so." And I just remember being so mad that night. So later, they come up to me. I go to grab the check for them. They're like, "You know what, man? You should check out." Or they're like, "You go to a church right now, man? This and that. You seem like a hard worker. This and that." I'm like, "Yeah, no, I haven't gone to church in a while, but it'd be cool." They're like, "Man, you should come by, swing past this revival, man. We just telling people about Jesus, and we'd love to have you out there. I think God could do a miracle in your life." And it made me, when they said that, I was like, "Yeah, sure, okay." Kind of like the standoffish, "Oh, I'm gonna people please and just kind of say whatever I want and just kind of walk away and never see these 2 guys again." I mean, honestly, that's how I used to weasel my way out of things. And I was a terrible liar too. Oh, when I say terrible, I was a good liar, but I was very repetitive in terms of lying.
Yeah. So before we get to
Go ahead.
all of the good things, I almost want to like give you a hypothetical of imagine that night, that encounter. Imagine if you had stayed in that mindset. Imagine if you had stayed and like, all right, I'm never going to see these two again. Imagine the trajectory your life would have went in versus now. And so reflect on that. And I want you to try your best to describe everything that has taken place in terms of what God has delivered you from and all the good things God has done in your life since, taking the other way, which is the way you're on right now.
Yeah. Well, had I definitely just like, done my typical lie and smile and wear the mask that, no, you don't get to see my face, bro. No. Had I like, kept that mask on and, I didn't feel the spirit of conviction moving on me, then I would have I know that I would have continued to drink. I would have continued to fornicate with whoever I wanted, whenever I wanted. I would have gotten bored. I would have been tired because I was already tired at that point. And honestly, man, I probably wouldn't have even made it to 2023, and it was October of 2020, or I'm sorry, it was November of 22 when I met them.
Yeah.
Because I was already living at my aunt's place, and I just felt like a kid again because I was helpless, and I was contemplating getting very close to taking my life, like for sure this time, like, and it wasn't just gonna be like some small little endeavor of like hanging, or like I was gonna go grandeur and just like take my car off the freeway or something, like crazy.
Yeah. And so did you attend one of those revival services?
I did. The very next day, I went, right? Pastor Fino Baca, he's gone crazy. When I say going crazy, like the spirit is moving in the place.
Turn it up, yeah.
Yeah, turn up. And I don't remember anything he was preaching, but I do remember feeling the spirit just moving and convicting me, and it was overwhelming. Like so overwhelming, like I was like sitting back in my seat, and I was like a statue. Like I couldn't do anything, and I was just like, holy cow, oh my goodness. By the time the altar call came, I just ended up, like, I don't remember getting up or raising my hand. I just remember ending up in the altar and with tears down my face, and I'm like uncontrollable. I was like, why am I crying? What is happening? And I just felt like this release. It's like not involuntarily. It's like something deep inside of me has wanting to have done for so long but I was rebelling against that feeling and that want. So. And
what took place after, did you eventually prayed at that altar, right?
Yes, I did.
You prayed. And what was that like? Did you feel anything instantaneous, or was it just kind of like a feel it out as you go?
For me, it was a feel it out as you go. I wish it was like an immediate transformation, but I feel like some of the things that I had were so rooted. I feel like God wanted me to work.
Yeah.
Put in the work.
Yeah, to iron some things out.
Yeah.
So, Doc M, he started following up on you, and he built a relationship with you. Mm-hmm. When did you yourself decide to make that decision to fully give your life to God and lock in?
So it wasn't until like, well, okay, so I've been going to church. I went to conference, and then, I was still going. He had asked me to do song service after that 6-month period. I was like, yeah, sure, because, I was just praising, and he was like, dang, man, you could sing. I was like, oh, yeah, cool, And, like, it's not that I wasn't committed, but, like, I was still, like, holding back, eventually holding back, like, even after conference and coming back home, I landed in a place where I actually backslid But when I did, and I like immediately, I called Pastor Doc Kim, because that spirit of conviction was just like, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna be completely honest with you. I am not gonna be there on time for service, because I'm at such and such 45 minutes away, and service starts in 3 minutes. He's like, wow, bro. He's like, I really appreciate you being honest. I did not expect you to just do that. I was like, yeah, I don't deserve to be in ministry. He's like, we'll talk when you get back. It's like, all right. So I still went. I made it for like the last 3 minutes of service. And then after, he's like, yeah, we'll talk before the evening service. I was like, oh, dang. So I was just kind of staying in the area, just waiting. I'm like, what's going to happen? And so he came back and told me I had to take a 6-month discipline period. I was like, all right, that's fine, whatever, da-da-da. It's 6 months. What's 6 months? I've been in trouble before, this and that. But it was different, because during this period, like, I was seeking God more, because I was still, like, I thought that if I reverted back to my old ways, that maybe, hey, things were rough for a bit, and God got me through this little period, because throughout my life, going to church was periodical. It was for a season.
Mm-hmm.
But now, it's my life. Like, this is what I want to do. This is what I need to do. I can't go back and feel that emptiness again.
Yeah,
because
there's nothing to go back to.
There's nothing. It's just hopelessness. Without Christ, like, there'd be no reason to just be wandering about. You're like a lost sheep. I was a lost sheep, just wandering about in the field, and Christ came after me, that 99th one, or the one out of the 100. He goes to the 99 others. I can't math right now. I apologize.
Yeah.
I'm just consumed right now with having this revelation as we're just conversing right now. It's like, oh man, So, yeah.
Yeah. And so, what would you say, after you gave your life to God, just to put a cap on it,
Mm-hmm.
What would you say are the main things that God delivered you from?
God delivered me from lust. He delivered me from being a liar, from being bound to just fulfilling the desires of my flesh. He also delivered me from depression and suicide, which are two very different things. And he just, he just delivered me from being prideful too.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And I say that with a smile, but I'm just like feeling his spirit. I don't know. I just feel like the spirit like comforting me right now.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just feels good, man.
If there was anything that you could say, to somebody out there who might be struggling currently, whether it be suicide, depression, or something similar that you experienced and that God has already helped you with, what would you say to them? Maybe they're saved, maybe they're not saved, and they're listening to this. What can you say to them?
If you're not saved, like, Jesus is the only way, the only way and satisfaction that you will receive in life. Like, I know you've probably heard people talk about him. You've probably seen the hypocrites. You probably have your indifferent feelings about God. But, like, if you are, like, suicidal and depressed, like, I'm telling you, like, God delivered me from that because of the peace. They say in the Bible, it says that you get that God gives you the spirit of love, joy, peace, and a sound mind. And so in that sound mind was ultimately the freedom. Now, if you're saved, however, and you're experiencing this, you gotta hit that altar. You gotta lay on your face and surrender whatever it is that is keeping you from developing your relationship with God, because honestly, like, Jesus is everything you need, and you shouldn't have that void in your heart. Like, he should fill it for you. Get in your word, talk to your pastor, or talk to a Christian friend if you're not comfortable with getting, that in depth with someone. But you have to put God at the center of your life.
Amen. Well, Jordan, I honestly wish we had more time. I wish we could, pull out more. But I feel like we did, get the vital things, the main important things of your testimony.
I agree.
I always ask people this at the end. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with the world? Any shout outs, any stories, any advice, anything before we close it out?
Let's see. Just the advice portion, just like, nothing will ever fulfill that, period. No matter, and this isn't even suicide. It's just like if you're feeling lost in the world and like you're looking for a purpose, or you're looking for that next person that you think is your quote unquote other half, God's all you need, literally. Like I'll preach that to the high heavens, I'll preach that, all across the mountains, up and down the street, shout Jesus from the mountains, Jesus to the streets, come on now. Like, that's the only fulfilling foundation that you need in your life. As for shout outs, man, shout out to, my boy, Doc Kim Murphy, Pastor Doc Kim Murphy, and Pastor Serafine Baca, or Fino Baca. They were vital in terms of me finding this and letting the Holy Spirit minister to me, because they were like tag teaming me, like, oh yeah, bro, you should, you should, and that one night, and I was like, and that was perfect. Shout out to Pastor Doc Kim's wife, Quincy Murphy, big leader in terms of how to interact with women, and the importance of women in like God's grand design, and just be giving me a broad perspective of things. Shout out their whole family, Miss Sylvia, Bear, Miss Rosa, Net, even Dina, David, Jeremiah, Abby, you guys all showed me like this kind compassion, like my first year at conference, even though I kind of roasted Bear and he was about to tear me a new one. And when I say a new one, I mean like a new life of salvation.
It's almost like that's almost like your initiation. Everybody messes with my Papa Bear. You were here at conference all week.
Yeah, man.
All the strays he caught over the pulpit. That's like, are you even a member of the Potter's House if you haven't made fun of my Papa Bear, or him made fun of you?
Yeah.
But I appreciate you, man. It's honestly a blessing. It's been a long time coming. I know I called you out last year. I'm just glad we were able to make it happen. I wish we could, do a 2-hour pod, but it's conference time. We're going to see some churches launched, but I am really glad to have been able to do this, and it's been awesome seeing what God has done in your life. And it's like every time I see you, it's like you're more leveled up. God's doing more and more, and we'll just have to see where you're at next conference.
Man, we hope it gets sent out.
Maybe you'll be the one launched out.
Yeah, come on, somebody. Also, shout out to Pastor Mike and Mandy Rodriguez and their family too.
The goats.
Yeah, man, they're stepping up.
They're so awesome.
Yeah, they're stepping up and being a blessing in my life, and I'm just thankful for them. And Pastor Martinez, because, man, we had some conversations about some things, and he's just been a powerful motivator as well in terms of some uncertainty in life. So, yeah.
Amen. Well, again, bro, I can't emphasize it enough how much I appreciate it and how much I'm excited to see what God does in your life. But for everybody listening, we'll see you guys on the next one.